we are.
Oh, I see there's a setting where you can post your picture. Do not show me, please. No video.
Okay, we're muting everyone, right?
Live faces, I guess we are.
You can post a picture if you don't want to be on screen.
Sounds like Linda Craig.
Yes, it does.
Yes,
It is.
I am not on screen today, sorry.
I see that. We don't see that.
Yes, but I'm here in spirit and whatever.
Good to have you here. We're going to be muting everybody that isn't scheduled to speak.
That's fine.
Is it telling me it's setting?
Let's do this.
Oh, it's
Do we
telling
see
me
the screen?
Yeah.
Just things.
All right.
Okay.
We're also seeing all your little thumbnail things at the side.
Right. So it goes. Okay, Sherry.
Okay, I'm not supposed to start till 05.
Oh, you've got 3 minutes to go.
Okay. Does the audience know that we're not starting till 05?
No, wait, we can tell them.
Can they hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. Audience, we're not starting until 5 minutes past the hour. Give you time to gather. We should be playing music with this, like the Bee Gees or something. ABBA.
I was thinking Led Zeppelin, but oh well.
Different
Or
era.
Queen.
That was my daughter's era.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Ew.
Yay.
Anyway.
It's 10:05 on my computer.
Time to go.
Okay, here we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our very first and probably last Zoomed virtual Bay Area League Council meeting. I'm Sherry Smith, the president of the Bay Area League. As most of you know, the Bay Area League is an ILO, which stands for Interleague Organization, and we comprise 20 local leagues. We were established to coordinate the league's oversight and response to proposals by regional government agencies like ABAG and BART and intercounty water districts and so forth. And thank you for looking to us to do that. This is International Workers' Day in communist countries, and not just coincidentally, May 1st in the US has been designated as Law Day by Congress since 1961. The month of May features in the Catholic Church special veneration of Mary, the Mother of Jesus. May Day in many cultures includes maypole dancing. Today is the first day of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we certainly salute that. And of course, May Day is the universal distress signal. But here today, May 1st means Bay Area League Council Day. In alternate years, we present a convention or what we call a council to give us a chance to convene and to do the business of the Bay Area League. This year's council does not have any business to bring before you, and so we did not need to have local leagues designate delegates, and we're welcoming everyone to be with us. Today's program features a presentation by the Climate Change Group of the Berkeley, Albany, and Emeryville League about, yes, climate change and sustainability priorities. This will be followed by a presentation on housing and homeless strategies and Plan Bay Area 2050, featuring Michael Lane, who's the state policy director of the SPUR organization. You will be able to post your comments and questions in chat, and some of these will be addressed at the conclusion of these presentations. The Zoom protocols will be posted on the PowerPoint, which you'll see. The recording of all of this council meeting, including chat, will be posted to our Facebook page. And now I take pleasure in introducing to you our Bay Area League board members, one at a time, who, when I say their name, will tell you just a bit about their portfolio. First, Leslie Stewart, who is our treasurer. Leslie, you're out there somewhere.
Yes, I just turned on my video, so you should be seeing me. I
What a
hope.
good idea.
There
There she is.
There it is. There it is. Okay. So I want to tell you that, as Sherry said, because this is not a formal business meeting, there is not a formal treasurer's report. But I wanted to assure you that our financials look good. In the past year, we had some differences between the budget we passed last year at convention and actual income and expenses. First, we brought in more money than we expected last year for the monitor. And the board had agreed that if
I'm watching my webinar. It just started. They were like 8 minutes late.
would whoever is talking. All right, can everyone hear me? Can you hear me now? This should be working. So back to where we were. We brought in more money than we expected last year for the monitor. And the board had agreed that if that occurred, we would spend more on production than we had budgeted. The discussion at convention last year had said that we might not produce a print edition this past year. We were able to do that. Alec agreed to take another pay cut, and that allowed us to come out about even and keep some money in reserves. I want to thank everyone who donated. It really makes a difference. It made a difference last year. The other difference that we had in terms of budget to actual was that we had no income from League Day because it was virtual, but of course we also didn't spend anything. So that was a wash. Lastly, we spent more than we budgeted for the website because we made the transition to Milo, which is the State League's website platform. I've been temporarily serving as the webmaster there because I'm familiar with that platform. We're working on having other people take over and manage the site. And if you're interested in participating in that, please let Madeline know. She's handling that aspect of our board right now. I'd like to say that we're still working on settling into that new site. So please take a look and tell us what you think. We have the same URL, lwbbayarea.org. The other issue that I had been asked to speak to was the ongoing plans for the monitor, but Alec McDonald, the editor, will be able to join us at the end of the morning. So I will let him give you the update on the Bay Area Monitor. Thanks.
Sherry, you're muted. Did you just introduce me? I'm Roma Dawson, and my portfolio on the board is housing and homelessness. And of course, this is an issue that's top of mind for many league members. Of course, many decisions are made either at a local level or at the state level. One of my goals for this next year is to just simply improve communications among all of the 20 leagues so we can share resources and information. And we will also be looking at the implementation phase of Plan Bay Area, which is just beginning. And there is a housing element to that because now we are trying to integrate on a regional level, transportation, housing, and environment, social justice, all to hopefully affect our climate crisis in a positive manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Roma. And now Alex Starr.
Hi. I chair the Transportation Committee, which is meets infrequently, never in person anymore, it seems. Anyway, I wanted to ask you a question. Did you know that the Bay Area has 27 different transit operators with a total of 151 agencies and jurisdictions of various types with overlapping mandates to deliver parts of the transit system? I didn't, it's overwhelming to say the least. And as Roma said, we're trying now, we meaning the Bay Area as a whole, to coordinate transportation, housing, and a bunch of other things in a more coordinated manner. With the pandemic, some of these gaps have become much more obvious. We obviously can't cover all of these systems without some observer help. I'll talk about observers at the end of the meeting, but they're pretty important. If you'd like, thinking about becoming one for either a transportation agency or another regional agency, let us know. I'm going to put a special email for the Transportation Committee in the chat, so it'll be there for you to view in the future. I'll talk to you later at the end of the meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Alex. And now Eric Ahrens.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how that happened. I got muted. Yeah, hi. I'm Eric Ahrens, and I report on climate matters. I'm in the Berkeley Albany Emeryville League, and 2 years ago, Berkeley passed a natural gas ban in new buildings. And other cities around the Bay Area have followed and have gas bans now also. Something else that we in Berkeley here have done is we have hills in back of Berkeley, the forest there and the wildfires. So we're concerned about wildfires. In other cities around the Bay Area, most of them have hills and forests also, and wildfires. So these are the things, are two issues, electrification and wildfires, that are common around the Bay Area. And so we pay attention to these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And now Vita Flores.
Good morning. I'm Vita Flores. I'm the Voter Service Director for the Bay Area League. I was formerly the Communications Director and made a lateral move. So we have space with communications if anybody would like to help us in any aspect. So the Voter Service Directorship is brand new, and we are establishing an opportunity to look at any regional bills or any ballot propositions that may cross over into two different leagues. So that's when the Bay Area League will take a look with you to establish a position. So you will hear. Thank you very much for joining us today. And
Thank you, Vita. I'm sorry that your sound broke up so much, but I think we got the gist of that. And now for Madeline Cronenberg.
Okay. Let's see if I'm on here. Can you see me?
Yes.
You guys see me? Okay, good. I'm the administrative vice president, and the two things that the main thing I do with that is make sure that we have a, what am I trying to do here? My video. Make sure that we have a list of who the league leaders are throughout the Bay Area, and that's the directory. So I really appreciate it if you would you can let Sherry know or let me know when there's a change in leadership and you have a new set of officers at your league. That's number one. Number two, I'm the Zoomie in the crowd here, and so this is I've been running the Zooms. I'm running this Zoom, such as I am, and I save them and post them and make sure that they're on our Facebook. I also do our Facebook. And right now I'm an interim communications person and hoping to be able to coordinate communications among the different leagues and the communications leaders in those leagues as we move forward. I think there's a lot that can be done. There's a lot that we can share with each other. And that's an important thing for us to do in the future. That's one of the things we've learned from the virtual world this year. And I just want you to know, just because I realize the hiccups around muting people, when you have a large number of people, what can happen, and I know everybody's in a different space, if I need to make sure that everyone is muted when they're not speaking and then turns it back on, because you don't always know what the background noise is that you've got, and it will show up later on in the recording. So that's where the hiccups are with the mutes. If I'm hearing something from somebody, I'm going to mute you if you haven't muted yourself. And so if you're not speaking, please do mute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. You mean you can't edit out ringing phones?
I'm not going to be doing that. No. You're going to hear it. So if you want a sound to be heard, it's going to be heard.
Every sound. Okay. Yep. Thanks a lot, Madeline. And now Kathleen Shaw. Kathleen has been the coordinator of this entire clam bake. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you. My particular portfolio is regional planning, regional governance. And this, which has been an important issue for the Bay Area League since 1960. In fact, their first position was on the regional governments and the formation of ABAG, and then there's a whole lot more that followed. The whole issue of looking at regional governance and regional planning is we understand that decisions are made beyond the local level, and all these issues kind of transcend that geography. So we really have to look at what our decision-making regional agencies are doing in terms of population distribution, environment, social equity, economic. And that leads us to what we're looking at right now. And you heard Roma kind of indicate about housing, but the Plan Bay Area 2050 right now, which looks at those the four elements of housing, transportation, environment, and economic. We're looking at that right now. The plan has been accepted, and it also how it influences your regional housing needs and housing. But we're looking at right now, there's a whole series of implementation strategies that MTC ABAG have put out, and we're examining very closely about the social equity issues and about the housing issue and the transportation and how it affects us. And you'll be hearing more about that. But that's where we're putting a lot of effort to make sure that our communities are served.
Thank you, Kathleen. And now Danielle Kreider.
Hi, my name's Danielle. I'm new to the Bay Area board. I just joined a couple months ago, and so I'm still kind of finding niche, but I feel like there's so much to learn from all of you, and I really look forward to contributing to the work that this regional board's doing with so many important issues facing us right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Danielle, and welcome again. You are absolutely welcome. Okay, and now for our policy briefings. They'll be facilitated by Kathleen Shaw and by Roma Dawson. Kathleen will introduce the speakers for our first briefing. Kathleen?
All right, we are really, really pleased and honored to have from LWVBAE, League of Women Voters, Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville, their climate change group, an extraordinary group who put in some interesting efforts. We have who are going to really share with us not only what those efforts are, but really give us some insight into our efforts in terms of climate change. First, we have Linda Diz Swift, known as Diz Swift, who is the Natural Resources Task Force Chairperson of LWVC. She's also the Climate Team Chairperson of LWVUS and the founder with Janet Blumenkrantz of all this activity in LWV, or League of Women Voters countrywide since 2007. Then we have Candace Hyde Wang. She herself brings an incredible kind of background. She's a former city planner in Berkeley, former housing builder, current real estate agent, active in gas ban, wildfire, urban interface, danger in the East Bay, establishing taxes such as point of sale to accomplish these goals. Just to give you an idea of what she's doing. Eric Ahrens, who you heard a little bit earlier, he is obviously LWVBA director, and he joined the League of Women Voters 2 years ago to help with explaining technical subjects on global warming, heat pumps, induction, stoves, electric cars, solar cells. That gives you a sense of the caliber of who is speaking next. So I'll turn it over, I think, to you, Diz.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Kathleen. Let me share our screen and get this up into, hold on. The Berkeley Albany Emeryville League is very happy to have this opportunity to present to you guys about something about what we're doing of climate. But let's start with a little history and how we've evolved. As Kathleen says, Janice Blumenkrantz here on the right and myself founded the group in about 2005, promptly went off to lobby in DC. And during the first years, we worked very closely with the city of Berkeley on developing the climate action plan. We held caucuses at US convention and California conventions to help make league members aware of the urgency of climate and that we could actually make a difference. Near the same time, the National League put together the Climate Change Task Force, and they developed a toolkit to help people in terms of what is climate change, what can we do, and so forth. And they were active for about 6 years. We've evolved, and now we're beyond just Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. Now we have the California Climate Change Task Force for the last 3 years or so. And we now have about 300 members from 60 local leagues. And because we want everyone to have a home, we have formed statewide teams so that if someone wants to be active in climate, but their local league does not have that as a committee or team, they can join a statewide team and be an advocate and a person that does something about it. The statewide teams we have right now are building electrification, which we'll hear more about, sea level rise, food, soils, and agriculture, which is actually a very active team, climate action plans, which is also very active and has moved into national, and wildfires, which, as Eric mentioned, are important in the Bay Area. It's throughout most of California. And water, which is not just water related to climate change, but water generally within the incredibly complex water system that we have in California. Mentioned was the National Climate Interest Group, which has just been formed. We are formally now part of the National League of Women Voters. We cover most of the United States. We have a steering team, and the team members are shown in the dark colors from those states, and participants and members and team members in the other green states. We have about 1,200 league members now, and we're growing actually fairly rapidly. We have national teams similar to the state teams. One is the Federal Legislation and Policy, which is exactly as it sounds, but we have now a team of climate people that can advise on climate so that the US staff has a background that is based on study. Carbon pricing is important. We already have a carbon price in California, but we're looking at carbon pricing in other states and regions. Food, soils, and agriculture has moved beyond California, and it is growing. Wildfires predominantly in California and the West. Climate justice is important, as everyone knows. Renewable energy, what can we do? What about jobs? Transportation, mostly in the Northeast Corridor. Alex Starr is engaged or knows about the team and is participating. Water, health and climate, and health crosses over most things. Both health and jobs are very engaging for people that really don't understand yet the urgency of climate. And oceans, which encompasses the sea level rise that we have in California as well as other areas. So that's a little history and a little background. If anyone's interested in joining any part of this, you are so very welcome. Now I'd like to turn it over to Candace Hyde-Wong, who, as Sherry said, or no, Kathleen said, is a Dynamite member and has been active in the climate team for a while. And she will begin with electrification, talking about buildings, both new construction and existing buildings. Eric will follow and then talk about vehicles. And then Candace will return to talk about wildfire. Candace?
Okay, so in about 2019, we focused with a lot of other groups across the country. It was kind of an aha moment that 100% electrification of buildings and vehicles is the way forward in combating greenhouse gas emissions. So we have partnered with the city of Berkeley in a lot of their moves on this, and Berkeley has a gas ban in new construction now. We are partnering with them now on existing buildings, and that's going to mean probably a point of sale ordinance that's very effective. And also we have a climate equity fund that was just passed to help people move in that direction, particularly more low income people. So that's very important part of the electrification mandate. And then, of course, we've partnered with the city on presenting vehicle fairs and new electrification fairs. And then last year, we added another focus, and that's urban wildfire. This is an urgent issue throughout the Bay Area, and I'll talk about that a little more later. Okay, so why natural gas was originally thought to be a clean transition fuel, but then it was discovered that no, it's not. It's actually a pretty bad greenhouse gas. It's 20 to 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, and the methane, unfortunately, is leaking across its transmission, extraction, and storage system. So you see in older cities, the problem is very severe, including even explosions in that from gas pipes. And in Indianapolis, for instance, this shows not a very bad problem, but California is more like Boston. We have very old transmission pipes, and it's not really economic to fix those. So we need to go to all electric homes and all electric, really, lifestyles. This is another graphic to show you how methane leaks, extraction, storage, and transmission, but it also leaks into your homes. So we produce as much smog in our homes as all the light duty vehicles outside. So if you change your home to all electric, you're not only helping with global warming, you are making yourself a much cleaner indoor air environment. And a great plus to this is that in new construction, you save about $40,000 per unit in construction costs because you're not running gas pipes in. So a lot of new apartments in that are all electric, and we're looking at an all electric future for new construction, particularly in California. So electrifying everything we use with clean 100% renewable energy is the goal. Our portfolio is essentially 1/3 to 1/2 renewable now. And some carriers give you the an opt-up option to 100%. PG&E gives you that option. So encouraging people to do that for a few dollars a month immediately decreases their greenhouse gas emissions. So that's an important immediate difference we can make. So just to summarize, the US has almost the highest per capita greenhouse gas emissions in the world. We are a very energy intensive community, and we need to electrify our homes and vehicles to reduce the emissions that we produce. So an individual can reduce their emissions by about 65%, and the country as a whole by about 50% by electrifying all buildings and automobiles and vehicles. I'll turn it over to Eric Ahrens now, who's going to talk to you a little bit about how this is going to happen.
On electrifying, one can electrify a house, and the big things there are in heating the air and air conditioning, heating the hot water, heating clothes in order to dry them out. And there are heat pumps which can do these. And in cooking, induction stoves are really good. Let's go on to the next. Yes, so how do various devices compare? Well, natural gas, well, it gives off a lot of gas. And resistance heating, those are the old-fashioned, or the most common nowadays, the type of heaters. They're better. And then the heat pumps are very efficient and extremely efficient, and they're the best. And induction stoves are very good. So the benefits of electric houses, as you heard, they're cleaner and they're healthier because you don't breathe in gases from natural gas, and they're cheaper to operate, in particular heat pumps, which are so incredibly efficient. And so, and on cars, that's the other big thing that can be electrified. And they're cheaper to operate because electricity is less expensive than gasoline. And the maintenance costs there just aren't any. I've got an electric car. I've had it for 9 years. I've got 90,000 miles, and I've had no, or sort of almost no maintenance costs. The only ones that I've really had are new tires. And so there's a save a lot of money there. You don't have emissions because you don't have a tailpipe. The cars are smooth in how they drive. And the batteries in a lot of the newer EVs now are quite big, so you can go far and you can charge quickly. And they're convenient if you have a charger in your own house, and so you don't have to go to a charging station. Okay, on charging and EV, down on the bottom you can see home charging, and every EV comes along with a charger. It comes with the car, and you can plug the charger into a 110 volt outlet or a 220 volt outlet. On the 110 volt outlet, it takes 48 hours to charge up to get 200 miles, but you don't go 200 miles every day. Most cars only go about 40 miles, and that takes 10 hours, so that's overnight. The level 2 charger, that's overnight charging also. And there are DC fast charging. You find that kind of charger outside of supermarkets. And now there are these high power chargers that will charge a car up in about the time a gasoline car takes to fill up a gasoline tank. And so who are the customers for these high power chargers? Well, some of the customers are long distance drivers, and they charge up on the highways as they cross the country. And the other customers are people who live in apartment houses and condominiums. And so they can go to a nearby charger and charge up. And so if one lives in an apartment, if one can charge at work, well, that's handy, of course. Or you can go to these fast chargers I just mentioned, or you can make a deal with your apartment manager to get an outlet and park there and pay him then a flat monthly rate. Or there are smart outlets which will accumulate your charges, and you can pay him at the end of the month. President Biden has a plan of putting in 500,000 new fast chargers in the U.S. So there'll be chargers all over the place for EV owners. Now the California League has teamed up with an organization called Drive Clean, and it will have a Zoom meeting this year. And people who are interested in getting electric cars can talk to people who got electric cars about electric cars. Okay, and so we'll go back to Candace here on wildfires.
Okay. So last year we added another focus in our climate team, and that is urban wildfire. Urban wildfire affects the entire Bay Area. You can see here CAL FIRE's very high fire hazard areas in red, but there are also high fire areas that are local responsibility areas. And they affect many more areas than we can see on this map. So how do we begin to approach this very difficult problem? First of all, we need to get the engagement of the citizenry. So owner engagement on properties is very important, and their move to do structural hardening and vegetation management is very, very important. We have a few tools to do this. Firewise communities are important organizational tools. You can organize your neighborhood to get vegetation management going and structural hardening, but even more important, from FireWise, we can move to fire adapted communities, which is a large group, a large geographic area where all sorts of entities cooperate together, not just homeowners, but businesses and parks and different entities. And that then may allow us to use some very innovative tools. In Berkeley, we are doing a small experiment with Professor John Radke of UC Berkeley, and in geospatial modeling of vegetation management and the fire outcomes from different types of management programs. So we can take a picture of the existing, project forward, fire under different fire conditions, what might happen, and then model the reduction and project forward different outcomes. And that we hope will be an excellent educational tool for people to really get on board with the very difficult activities that need to be done. So just in summary, if you want to electrify your home, a great roadmap to offer to people is switcheson.org. Electricvehiclesveloz.org is a great roadmap, and Drive Clean Bay Area you can partner with to do electric vehicle fairs. And please take a look at our website. We're rewriting it now with a lot more information, but we do have our brochure on there now, which you're welcome to use if you find it handy. And we would love to hear what you're doing also in climate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're just hitting that time. We really appreciate what you have to say. And now we get to turn it over to Roma to talk about housing. Again, thank you for insightful. Do note that we will be sending not only this, there'll be all kinds of documents as well as this PowerPoint that'll be sent to everyone after this, because obviously we just touched the tip of the subject. So Roma, it's your turn.
Thank you, Kathleen. Our next presenter is Michael Lane, the State Policy Director for SPUR. SPUR is a leading public policy organization focused on research, education, and advocacy. SPUR has participated in many past League Bay Area events. We're going to deviate slightly from the announced program today. Those of you that were at our community dialogue last year will realize that we at League Bay Area are working very hard to help our members understand that sound housing policy and its underlying land use decisions are an important critical tool in the toolkit to combat climate change. Today, we asked Michael to present SPUR's priorities for pending state legislation related to SPUR's housing strategies. He has an extensive background in affordable housing in jobs he's held before SPUR. It's now on the screen, so I won't read it to you, but I will note he was instrumental in the passage of the 15 bill state housing package in 2017. And of course, this is my local league. And in 2020, he led San Jose's Measure E affordable housing campaign that is now generating millions for homelessness prevention. We'll have time for a few questions after Michael's remarks, so please enter them into chat. And Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Roma. Good morning, everyone. Muy buenos dias. Thank you for inviting me. I just begin by saying how grateful I am for the league and the work that you do and the civic engagement and the model. You're really helping to improve our communities, and we're very grateful for your work. I'm also very grateful for the friendship over the years from Roma and Sue Russell. They're tremendous affordable housing advocates, and they really are having an impact. So thank you for your work. As Roma mentioned, I'm with SPUR, and we're going to be rolling out our regional strategy on May 13th. You can find more information at spur.org. I won't go over a lot of that information today because we're having a series of public programs running up to that date, including some housing papers that my colleagues Sarah Karlinski and Christy Wong have released, including housing as infrastructure and anti-displacement strategies. And we've been having public programming with our state elected officials over the past couple of weeks, and we'll continue to do so. in the run up to May 13th. So if you want to get more information about those programs and the reports, that's at spur.org where you can find that. So thanks. But what I wanted to do is kind of give you a flavor of what's happening in the state capitol right now. But before I do that, just kind of to frame our discussion and Spur's advocacy, I wanted to share with you just one data point that actually came out from a paper that Sarah had done the previous year. It just talks about the changing demographics based on our lack of affordable housing and the changes in the economy, including the Great Recession and then the recovery after that, and now of course with the pandemic. But over the past 20 years, and this is based on work with the Concord group that Sarah had done on the past 20 years, we've actually lost over 300,000 households making less than $100,000 in the 9-county Bay Area. But we've added over 625,000 households making more than $100,000. And that's because in an environment of scarcity in terms of housing, obviously the wealthier and with the higher paying jobs are going to be able to compete much better. And many of our lower income workers and families have had to leave the region and either commute back in or just look for opportunities in other parts of our state or beyond. And that's really an unsustainable situation, both in terms of equity and the climate goals that we're trying to achieve, which you've just heard about. So that's really the basis for our work and what we're trying to accomplish. But maybe if we could just go ahead and pull up my slides. I don't know if people can see those yet. Great, thank you very much. So I wanted to give you some highlights about what's going on at the state level so far, and some of the themes and the issues that the legislators are wrestling with to provide some context. And these are some of the major themes, of course, that are arising. Much interest, obviously, in the post-pandemic recovery, and then the big federal assistance from the American Rescue Plan, and the state budget surplus that we've been running, particularly as higher income workers and corporations have done well online during the pandemic. Lower wage workers, not so much, of course. But there will be significant decisions being made that the governor will come out with his May revise middle of next month, or middle of this month. We're May 1st now, right? Middle of this month. And they'll have nearly $50 billion per program based on both the federal revenues that are coming in to help with to stimulate the economy, but then also with that budget surplus. So big decisions to be made. As you know, our budget chairs are both from the San Francisco Bay Area, so we're very fortunate to have Ms. Skinner and Mr. Ting in those positions in the Senate and the Assembly. Homelessness, of course, ongoing issue. Homeless challenges continue to increase in encampments. We see that in San Jose and everywhere else as well. Lots of frustration on the part of the state legislators, I would say, in committee hearings I've participated in. They feel like they've committed billions of dollars over the past few years to homelessness and have not seen significant improvements. And I think are asking for some accountability measures and a broader strategy on how to approach this. I think the advocates would respond, though, that it's typically been one-time funding on a one-off basis when there have been revenues available and dedicated for homelessness. And most of that money has been for capital or actually buildings and not for the services that go along with that, or an ongoing consistent sources of funding, which is really what's needed to do a longer term strategy instead of just trying to solve an immediate problem with either provisional housing or permanent supportive housing, which can take many years to develop. Another theme is the enforcement of existing state housing laws. And I think both the legislature and the governor are really interested in this aspect of it. In a sense, there is some complaint from local jurisdictions about new laws being added on housing every year, and they're having to accommodate those and make changes to their municipal codes and their policies, et cetera. But I think there's also an interest on the part of the legislature, given some of these robust bills that were passed over the past few years, to make sure that they're being implemented properly at the local level and to follow up on that. And so that's important. And we'll talk about that as we go through the slides. Development and wildfires, where we build, is a big issue. You just heard about it in the previous presentation as well. I would just wanted to flag SB 12 for you by Senator Mike McGuire. It's probably the bill that will move on this topic this year in terms of the tension between where we build. We should focus on infill development and stay away from these high risk zones, of course, for wildfires. On the other hand, we haven't made it that much easier to do the infill development. And so we really need to have a trade-off there where if we're going to follow the smart growth and infill development patterns, we need to really make sure that we're streamlining those infill sites and keeping people away from urban sprawl and building out into high severity wildfire zones. And then finally, another theme many legislators are really keen on is this idea of returning to look for affordable homeownership opportunities, especially for households of color. And I'll talk more about some of those initiatives as we go through the slides. But that is an important theme that's beginning to be, I think, vetted again in the legislature. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. So I just wanted to flag a few bills to give you a sense of how these themes are playing out. This is AB 71 by Assembly Members Rivas and Chu, as you can see there. And this GILTI tax that they're talking about, just to give you a sense of what that is, this would be really a way to tax American-controlled companies that may have profits on intellectual property, is a way to think about it, that that's actually being produced overseas. So it's basically a minimum tax on that kind of intellectual property to make sure that we're just not offshoring in order to avoid taxes for really what are American-based companies. This was included in the legislation as well as some other corporate tax increases. Those had been amended in the bill, and then upon opposition got amended out ultimately. But now the GILTI provision remains, and just to understand, this would be conforming to federal law. This was a change that was made in the federal law. Now corporations will say yes, but that was also in tandem with a significant reduction in corporate tax rates down to 21%, which we haven't seen in California. But this idea is that it would conform, at least this component around intellectual property, with what currently is the case for the federal government. Next slide, please. This is an ongoing theme, impact fees and their effect on the cost of housing. You probably recall there was a Turner Center report that really began to dig into this, that showed just the discrepancies jurisdiction by jurisdiction, and many of them with similar, cost of land and construction costs and the cost to acquire right-of-way, for example. But their fees are vary tremendously. So, City of Oakland, for example, may charge $30,000 a door in impact fees, whereas if you go to the City of Fremont, for example, it's over $100,000 a door. And so that really has an impact on the cost of housing, and it also then determines who can live in the communities. So excessively high impact fees can actually be a way to exclude households from communities in a relatively subtle way. And so Assemblymember Tim Grayson from Concord has been working on this issue for several years now, and this is his latest bill to really get at what these impact fees are, how they're calculated. Obviously, jurisdictions need to be able to mitigate impacts of new development, but there's also needs to be a balance there to make sure we're not creating a lack of affordability through impact fees. Next slide, please. This is the enforcement piece that I wanted to give you a couple examples on. Assembly Member David Chu, who chairs the Assembly Housing Committee, has this bill which would require mid-cycle check-ins, particularly for jurisdictions that are falling below the regional average in meeting their housing needs, and then to also, if they're below 10% below what that average is, there would be interventions where they would need to adopt pro-housing policies, which could be by right approvals, it could be reduced parking requirements, other ways to facilitate the development of housing. And then I also wanted to point out in the governor's January budget, he included $4.3 million to create a housing accountability unit at the California Department of Housing and Community Development that would help to enforce state housing laws at the local level. Next slide, please. Wanted to give you a couple examples of challenges in the legislature from the Senate Housing Production Package called Building Opportunities for All. These are a couple of the bills in that package. There's actually a series of 5 bills. SB 6 is a policy that we like. It would actually allow for residential development in commercial zones if certain stipulations are met. One of the controversies around the bill has been both the requirement of a skilled and trained workforce, which the California State Building and Construction Trades have demanded, and then also a potentially relatively high inclusionary housing requirement that could make the bill relatively inapplicable in most of California that may not be able to finance those additional costs to do this kind of development. But that's been an ongoing theme, is how do we balance some of these requirements on the developments and feasibility. The idea of a skilled and trained workforce would mean that essentially only union general contractors and subcontractors could bid on the projects. Oftentimes there's not sufficient workforce in parts of our state, or at certain times, particularly if they're focused on office development, to be able to deliver. Plus there is a significant cost increase, can be 15 to 25% of labor costs with those requirements. And the same thing with an affordability component. If it becomes excessive, and those foregone rents and the cost of building those units can create infeasibility for developments. And then I also just wanted to highlight SB 8 by Senator Skinner, which is a 5-year extension of our Housing Crisis Act of 2019. And one of the things that did was to clarify when a development is deemed approved, and then also it would limit increases in impact fees and other fees that local jurisdictions can charge. It would prohibit downzoning of sites to less density, and moratoria on building. Those are just some of the features, and this is mostly just an extension of the sunset for that bill. Next slide, please. These are a couple other pieces of the Senate housing production package. I wanted to include these because you're likely hearing a lot about these, and you probably saw that the Pro Tem Atkins just had an op-ed in the Sacramento Bee yesterday, which was really strong on her bill. But this idea of by right duplexes and lot splits has a lot of support, but also significant opposition, I would say. It is a reprise of a bill from last year that didn't quite make it at the end of the session, but did move through both houses with majority support, certainly. But the idea there would be to create some gentle density, would allow in an existing single family zone to create duplexes. And then Senator Wiener has this SB 10, which would be kind of small neighborhood multifamily on parcels, but it's really an optional approach, and jurisdictions, a majority of the city council would have to adopt by ordinance this type of an approach and agree to do that. Otherwise, jurisdictions are not forced to use this tool, but those who want to do it for a little bit more density and to be able to provide that neighborhood multifamily, they could avail themselves of this program. Next slide, please. This is the homeownership task force I wanted to flag for you that Assemblymember Quirk Silva from Fullerton has introduced, and she wants to set up a group that would work on this. And I provided a statistic there to show you what folks are trying to get at, but we're more than 10% below the national average in terms of homeownership rates. And Latinx and Black households are significantly below that even. And so there's a real interest, I think, both among advocates and in the legislature to address this by creating more affordable homeownership opportunities. And of course, in the high cost coastal areas, those will have to be things like townhomes and condos as well. Next slide, please. Then finally, just wanted to point out this ongoing debate with groups like Livable California and others who for local control. I think local electeds for local control or something to that effect out of the city of Torrance. But there are many other groups who are opposed to any kind of state intervention in local land use and zoning, as you know, which is one of the reasons why we've had a housing scarcity over the past few decades. But there is this constitutional amendment being proposed. I don't think that it would move, but I just wanted to give you an example of some legislators who are in essence carrying water for those opposed to pro-housing policies. And the debate is really over these two bullets below that about municipal affairs and home rule, which is in Article 11 of the California Constitution. But I think the fact that they're bringing forward this measure demonstrates that the Constitution does allow for state preemption for this issue of matters of statewide concern. And that's the term of art that's used by the legislature when there is an issue, whether it's in healthcare, education, environment, housing. There are rules that the state can set as sort of a minimum threshold that jurisdictions, even charter cities, must follow. So that is an ongoing debate. This is a group trying to get a measure qualified that would modify the California Constitution to prohibit the state from enacting laws that would affect the zoning and land use at the local level. So those are the main themes and issues I think that are being discussed right now, and be glad to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Michael. And I would like to remind everyone to please put questions in chat because I'm not seeing many right now. However, Michael, there is a comment, and I'm hoping that you can talk a little bit about it. And it's regarding upzoning, or what is sometimes called general density or housing for missing middle. And you alluded to it in one of the state bills. And it's asking about if this housing is building primarily higher cost housing, or what group will this reach? In other words, is it really getting at affordable?
Yeah, and as you know, there are multiple definitions for affordable. I think it's more affordable. It's not necessarily deed restricted though for very low income people. But the problem is if you don't hit the missing middle building type in moderate income, then they go out and cannibalize the existing housing stock that might have been more affordable for lower income families. And we do have a whole swath of households who don't qualify for example, voucher programs or for 100% affordable housing that's publicly assisted by the state. So I think it will be more affordable, but it's really for that sort of missing middle and moderate income type building type and household that we're trying to serve through the market, but without any public subsidies, because we want to direct our finite public resources to very low income and extremely low income and for homelessness housing. And I think that's the best policy. And to the extent that we can use market forces to create some more naturally occurring, or what we call affordable by design, that's the goal. And so if you have a single family lot and you subdivide or create a duplex, the value of the land becomes more valuable. I think that's the argument that people are making, but the cost per unit actually declined. And many households would not want to live in a duplex. Others would jump at the chance, but it also depends upon the geography and the amenities around the neighborhood, et cetera, and what else is going on there to really determine what that level of affordability will be. But it would certainly be more affordable in most cases than a single family home on the one hand, which is now as you know, the median continues to go up on what that cost is. And in San Jose, it's like 1.2 million now, just as one example. Or towers in the downtown type 1 Class A construction, which is the most expensive type. And those tend to be very expensive apartments in downtowns and in job centers. So we're trying to create some additional diversity of our housing stock.
Well, we are almost out of time, but I want to just take one more question. Do SB 9 and SB 10 have requirements for affordable?
So the applicable affordability would be whatever the local jurisdiction determines it to be. And these are really local control bills. Typically that's done through an inclusionary ordinance. Although I would say that even San Francisco, a progressive jurisdiction like San Francisco, exempts buildings that are 10 units or less, because they understand that if you try to, on a relatively small project, also include deed restricted affordable, you actually make all the other homes more expensive because you don't have the economy of scale to really make an inclusionary ordinance work. So that typically inclusionary ordinances begin at 10 units or more.
Thank you, Michael. And there was one more question about big city mayors and a request they made, and I will be answering that in chat. And I want to thank you very much. And you can continue to enter questions into chat, and we will forward those to Michael for answers and do the best we can to help. And now we have a hard stop at 11. So I will turn it back to, I believe I'm to turn it back to our president, Sherry. Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate it.
Sherry?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
I was waiting for myself to pop up here, but I will just plow ahead here. Okay. Thank you, everyone who just participated in all of this. We appreciate that tremendously. We're offering something new at this council, a local league town hall. This is an interactive forum where our local leagues can share their priorities for 2021, 2022, and to report on challenges that you faced and your successes during this pandemic climate. We have scheduled about an hour for this, followed by a question and answer session. This town hall will be moderated by our board member, Danielle Kreider. And when your name is called, you may speak for 2 or 3 minutes, preferably closer to 2. Danielle will then facilitate questions and comments from you all by way of chat. Danielle, I'm going to turn this all over to you with thanks.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited for us all to learn what other local leagues are doing, because I feel like we're all doing a lot of great work, and sometimes we're in our little bubble and we don't understand what else is going on and maybe what other efforts we can be building off of instead of duplicating efforts. So I think hopefully all of you guys are prepared for this. We were hoping that one individual, whether it be a president or a board member from each of the local leagues, step up and just go over the information Sherry had mentioned, indicate what your local priorities are and some struggles you might have faced or other lessons that you want to share. For the sake of time, we are asking that you keep this to 2 to 3 minutes. And so if you guys could go ahead and if you are the only person here from your local league, or if you know that you want to speak on behalf of your local, if you could enter your name and your league into the chat, that way I'm not calling on people who don't want to speak. So I'm going to give you guys like 1 minute to do that, and then we'll get started. And I'll start with those who volunteer and throw their names in the chat, and then I'll check in with the other leagues that haven't been represented. Yeah. I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm going to start just calling out calling out local leagues. How do you guys feel about that? All right. Well, do we have any?
That'll teach them.
Do we have anyone from the San Francisco Local League? How about South San Mateo?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Joyce Sheffrin. And I'm
Thank
the
you so much.
housing local action. And we do have housing and transportation as one of our areas of influence. We have 6 cities to cover, and it's seemingly becoming a little overwhelming with all the RENA requirements affecting 6 cities, and they're all very different local areas. It's really goes from Redwood City being 86,000 down to Portola Valley, which is like 2,000 or 3,000. And so it's quite a mixture, and we're trying to get a handle on how we can approach it. But any advice you have would be welcome.
Great, thanks so much. And I think that we'll share our directory with those who don't have it. And so you guys can contact each other, or if you need us to help facilitate a conversation after this, we can do that for sure. How about someone from North and Central San Mateo? Cupertino and Sunnyvale? Mountain View? Palo Alto? San Jose and Santa Clara? Does anyone want to volunteer?
We've got 53 participants here. Don't all hold back.
This is Susan Requa, the Diablo Valley League. And we wanted to raise the issue of communications through social media. We know that we have to be effective through social media in order to reach younger generations and upcoming generations of leaders. And we also know that there's so much information that needs to go out, and there has to be new designs, new ways to communicate complex, detailed policy. And we're thinking that perhaps collaboration with this regional leagues, all the different local leagues, we could possibly hire someone, because what we found is that social media has to be constantly maintained, and we just do not have volunteer support to make that effective. So that's one thing that we wanted to see addressed. We have had success in working with local, I just wanted to say, in terms of equity, that's one of our priorities. And we have had communication with Latinx communities in that regard, and outreach through other nonprofits seems to be a good way to use social media as well. So that's one effort. We also have connected with a budget justice coalition in our county, and I recommend it as a model for every county, really. It's so complex, understanding how money is being spent at the county level. And we have all these opportunities now about money coming in from at the federal level and state level because of the pandemic. So it's especially important that money gets delivered well, and that we have educated reviewers of that. So those are the key things from our district. We have done a lot with election in regard to the census and recreating districts within the different local entities. And we have sent out letters supporting public commissions for that. And we will be having a special video presentation for information on redistricting if other leagues are interested in watching for that. Through our website, you can get the details. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a great report. How about someone from San Jose or Santa Clara? Alameda or Oakland? We have to have someone from Alameda or Oakland.
Danielle, when you're ready, I'll go back to San Jose, Santa Clara.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you. And please, if I move on too fast, intro.
No, that's okay. I couldn't unmute fast enough. This is Roma Dawson. I'm on the board of San Jose, Santa Clara. And we also have another board member attending today, Gloria Chun Hu. We are involved in forming a homelessness committee. We have a very active climate change committee, and climate change and housing homelessness have been our top two priorities for the last 4 years. I've been the program director person. And so we're very interested in also looking at the county of Santa Clara, and there are some folks from the 5 leagues in Santa Clara County participating, and we're looking at how we can share more information within the county. So thank you.
Thanks for that. Let's see, does someone want to speak for Oakland?
It's Kathleen. I think on behalf of, we have a good attendance here from League of Women Voters Oakland. And on behalf of the president, Deborah Scheffler, she asked I give a few words. We have been, extraordinarily active and had a commitment in terms of not only the homelessness with our unsheltered task force that we've created, as well as our reentry task force. And those are just kinds of a couple of committees that now have responded to what they're doing using our Zoom capability and connection. So that has been a real challenge, if you will, during our pandemic. But we have an education committee that we're really working with our Oakland Unified School District and looking at what's going on, not only in the big picture, the funding picture, the infrastructure picture, but also the online learning and the equity issues in terms of serving communities of color. We are looking, our action committee, looking at the transparency and the issues with our city council. I say issues, but we want to make sure that they are literally communicating to the public about and what's going on in the commissions and what's going on police commission and a variety of things that we're monitoring. We have had a series of very successful Zoom gatherings. Instead of we always focus on having a luncheon where we would bring more than 400 to this luncheon. Now, what do you do in the middle of the pandemic, and what do you do with that? But we ended up creating a series of very incredibly interesting and revealing kind of Zoom meetings, focusing not only on the centennial, but also what women and others leaders are doing in Oakland. That is a very, and DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, is a really underlying kind of thing that we've been looking at and trying to, what are different ways to make that, take the words and translate it into action. And so a number of committees and whatever on that kind of issue. That is probably the quickest report I can give you on that. And unless there's anything else that maybe someone else wanted to mention from Oakland who are here, we've got a good amount. That should do it. I think the idea of partnering with other leagues is a big issue that we're doing. In fact, we are together doing the Buffy Wicks Town Hall, Assembly Member Buffy Wicks, who serves the areas not only Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville, but also West Contra Costa County, Piedmont, and Oakland. And so it's been a really good opportunity for us to work together and to come up with this event. So, and by the way, that's May 5th.
Well, this is Louise from Oakland, and I would also like to add that we have a stewardship committee and that we had created a strategic plan. And so we have been working that strategic plan and will be reevaluating it. And we had 4 particular objectives, and we have been marching through them. And it has been a really very great way to focus on things. We've through that, we've created a couple of significant reports, one in which we looked at the council districts on voting. And then after the last election, we again did a responding paper showing how voting had improved as a result of the advocacy and collaborative work. We particularly focused on segments of council districts with very low voting. And then we created a collaborative effort and reached out to organizations and worked with them. And among the things we did is we hung 10,000 door hangers in those council districts, encouraging people to vote. So we really have been doing a lot with the collaborative effort, and it's been very rewarding to work with these community organizations.
Thank you.
Could I say something?
Sure, I'm not too stressed about time based off of the last few minutes. So
I live in East Palo Alto, which is part of South San Mateo County, and we have streamlined a process for ADUs. I think you can get a permit in 6 weeks. And there have been quite a few that have come into the city. And that seems to be working out well. It may help people from having to move because of prices of real estate. So that's all I want to say.
yeah, thanks so much. ADUs are a great thing. So it's good to hear you guys have been working on that.
Danielle, I'd like to
Yes.
intervene here just to
Okay.
insert a reminder. And that is that all of the chat is being recorded. and will be sent to all of you. And along with the recording of the, everything else. And so if you are a league that wants to partner with other leagues on particular projects or ideas, or if you are struggling with something and would like some suggestions, answers, methods, I urge you to put that into chat along with an email address or a website or some other way that leagues can get back to you so that this can continue to be interactive even after this council is over. Put it in chat. Thanks.
Thanks for that reminder. All right, do we have someone from Alameda who wants to provide an update? Here's someone unmuting. How about Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville? I think there's someone here from there, at least.
Mary and Eric?
I don't know. I don't have anything to add here.
We heard about the Great Climate Work.
We're trying to add a housing element to our climate team because a lot of this legislation, like Senate Bill 9, doesn't really take into account climate change with the upzoning. For instance, Lafayette you would think it would be a great place to upzone because you've got 10,000 to 40,000 square foot lots, but 60% of Lafayette is in very high fire hazard area with twisty roads. The rest of it would be in high fire hazard areas. So how do we deal with this? How do we deal with providing housing, affordable housing to communities that need to house their teachers, their firefighters, their grocery store operators, and do it safely? That's the question that we're trying to raise in our climate team this year.
Very cool, thank you. Let's see, how about Napa County?
Yes, I'll speak up.
Yeah, we're done.
I'm, oh, Kim? Oh, I was gonna start my video and it's just not coming. Anyway, you can hear me, right?
We can see you too.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. In Napa, we have committee on housing. I sit on a housing coalition, and Napa has sort of an unusual situation in that we're a tourist destination, and a lot of hotels are being built, and there are not the housing for the people that work in the industry. So we have been pushing, and we've had some success in now getting the city council and the board of supervisors to require, in a nice way, the hotels to build housing for the people, some of the workers that are going to be working at the hotels. And as I said, a couple of hotels, 2 or 3 hotels have already done that, committed to do that. And the other, we're also looking at expanding that to commercial development. We're looking to the wine industry to provide more housing, and we're looking to the hospitals to also provide housing. So we're coming at it from that direction. We also have a problem here with the agricultural preserve and the amount of housing that we need to build, and trying to do more infill because we can't expand out into the agricultural lands. In terms of climate change, of course, we've had our fires, 2 big ones. I had the fire come within 8 houses of my house in 2017. So we're working a lot on wildfire prevention. And the other thing we're doing is we're working, one town has already banned gas powered leaf blowers. So we're looking to expand that to all surrounding towns. We have various committees working on that. And then we're going to try to get it through the whole county. We're also working on a plastic ban on foodware because we have so many restaurants. So, and so we're in the middle of writing that proposal. And we just had a meeting where Senator Dodd addressed our group during Earth Day. And the one bill that we're particularly interested in is called SB 99. And it's going to ensure, there's going to be money to ensure that we have continuous electrical service during power outages. And we're particularly looking for that, that the means of having that energy be from clean sources. And there's be money for lower income areas. And let's see. Oh, and the other thing in housing that we're really pleased about is they were finally able to get through something called Heritage House, which is for people that were previously homeless, mental illness, substance abuse, and there will be people on site 24/7 and all kinds of outreach to help these people be able to move from this unit. It was an old, it was an abandoned Sunrise facility. And they're going to be able to then hopefully move out into the community into some sort of housing.
And I'd like to add one other item for the Napa League, and that is the Napa League works very closely with a community coalition. So working with that coalition, they've had the opportunity to go further, farther, faster. And I'd like to point out that the California State Census portfolio just came out, and the Napa League did a lot of work on the census, and
Whoops.
You have a sound problem, Vida.
I'm very sorry.
There, you're back. We
Now
can see
you're
you.
muted.
Can you speak again?
I know, I think I'm having a sound card program. I don't know if you heard that the Napa League was highlighted, our votercade for the census was highlighted in the annual brochure for the state of California.
Cool.
That's phenomenal. Thank you both. And I see that you guys are connecting in the chat, so please keep doing that. It sounds like there's a lot of overlap in the work that you guys are doing this year and last year. How about, is there anyone from Sonoma County or Marin County who would like to speak? All right. Well, while we're on North Bay counties, is there anyone from Solano County? I'm not sure I saw anyone else on the list. I am on the Solano County Board, and so I'll just throw it out there that our top three priorities this year are racial inclusiveness, justice and equity, voter rights and education, and climate change. Very similar to what you guys are working on, but we've definitely been thinking about our capacity issues. We're not a giant league, and climate change is hugely important to us, but it's also our third priority. And when we were starting to think about the work we could do for racial inclusiveness as well as voter rights, we're like, do we have the bandwidth to tackle such a big issue like climate change too? And so I think it's been very exciting for other members in Solano County to learn that other leagues like the Berkeley League are doing work around climate that maybe they could piggyback off of or learn from or collaborate with, because I mean, I think that the issues that we're we're taking on this year are just really big and broad. And I think that there's just a lot that we can learn from leagues like Oakland who have tackled similar issues previously. And I'm not going to speak anymore because I'm not super involved in like the voter services work that we've been doing this last year, but pretty much all we did last year was voter services with the election. All right. How about, just gonna call these out real quick because I don't know if we have anyone here for them. West Contra Costa, Piedmont, Fremont, Newark, and Union.
You got me from Fremont.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
We've just 2 days ago, we had our Fremont police chief, a woman who's really quite amazing, come and speak with us in our Zoom meeting. And it was kind of reassuring to know that she was there. She's retiring in the fall, but it was a very well-received meeting that we had. But one of the things we've been working on through the last few years is registration of students, which I think many of you know that. Youth Voter Movement is the title of the group that we're sponsoring. And I was reading a report, a national report on student voters and what the participation level was nationally. And the newer voters under the age of 25, the percentage went up hugely in the last national election, which was very exciting to read. And especially in California, youth voted in higher numbers than they ever have before. So that was good news. And something that we all need to remember. It's not just the old ladies with gray hair like me, but we need to encourage students, even in this era of COVID. We still managed to have a virtual Zoom sign up for students. So it's something we should never forget, I think. Also, I want to encourage people to use the chat if they have ideas for community dialogues, like the one that a Bay Area League did on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Put them in the chat and we'll consider them. The board will consider these ideas. And if enough people say, we want X, Y, or Z, we'll definitely consider putting a Zoom chat together, a Zoom community dialogue together. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. And then I think Laurel messaged me to speak on behalf of Piedmont.
Yes, Laurel Plimier. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Piedmont. We're a very small community surrounded by Oakland, but we have a fairly active league. Over the past year, obviously, we've been doing virtual things, and as a result, we expanded our YouTube channel, which was just sort of a natural. It is social media, but it's not like Facebook or Twitter where you have to have constant interaction with it. But we've really expanded our viewership on YouTube, and a lot of people watch our programs, which we stream live on YouTube, and then after the fact, hundreds of people sometimes will watch them after the live showing of them. So, over the weeks and months after the program, we really gain a lot of viewership, which just expands the educational programs that we're providing to the community. And like Oakland said, we've been partnering with them on a town hall with our local assembly member. And I think we do have a small Alameda County group also of leagues where we coordinate with each other in our local programming. The one other thing that I wanted to mention, we have transitioned our website to Club Express, and Club Express does website membership and treasurer and events hosting. So it's all one platform that takes care of all of that functionality. And I've been working with a group of leagues across the country to come up with best practices for using that and ways to better communicate among our leagues and to coordinate like local programming and at a national level to share what works best for communications and things like that. So if anyone is interested in that, I'm happy to share information about that. It's really helped us move our communications forward and made it easier for our volunteers, which I'm sure like everybody are strapped a little thin sometimes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Laurel,
Vida,
could
did-
you put that into chat, a way to connect with you? Thank you.
Vida, did you want to speak about Marin?
Yes, I live in Marin County, and the Marin League was my former league. Marin League has been doing a lot of work, very involved in the community, and partnering with the Registrar of Voters Office with a youth ambassador program. They've also been very vocal on the Batini transit station, which is the second busiest transit station in the Bay Area. So they've written letters and really have been focused on their work on finding a new location that suits everyone in the community. They have a climate change speaker series that's been going on, and also their monthly meeting on May the 3rd will be on California single payer healthcare. So that's coming up on May 3rd, and I'm sure you could find more information on their website. And I hope you can hear me okay. Thank you.
Yeah, your audio is perfect this time. I don't know what happened, but let's not jinx it. All right, and then real quick, Southwest Santa Clara Valley or Eden area, is anyone here to speak on their behalf?
Hi,
And
this
then-
is Joe Loss. I'm here from Eden area, and I know that we have other members online. We're a very small league as well, and we worked very hard last year on the election. And so when that was over, we decided to do a deep dive into our internal league and its workings. And so we have moved to Club Express. We have a conversion to 501c3 on our annual meeting agenda. We're looking at major bylaw changes that will restructure our board. But the most important thing I think that we're doing is that we've really upped our membership outreach. And we are talking to our members. We are working with our members. We're trying so hard to grow our league internally in order to make it stronger and allow us to participate in some of the other activities that we'd like to do in the league. But right now, I think that, for example, the Mount Diablo question about social media, what we did was partner with AAUW and do voter election and education pieces before November. Now we're going to partner with them to do voter suppression pieces. So it's another way for us to expand our volunteers and reach out to our community. So right now, our members are what we're focusing on. Thanks.
Thank you. And then I also wanted to give an opportunity to anyone from our county councils to let us know what work you're doing, because you do some important things too. All right.
This
Well,
is Connie Hamlin with the Alameda County Council.
Great.
And so one of the major focuses of the 6 leagues in Alameda County has been looking at redistricting and trying to encourage particularly the Board of Supervisors for the county to make the redistricting process a public one with lots of opportunities for public input. We've been working to get our cities in Alameda County to encourage the Board of Supervisors to make the redistricting process a more available process to the citizens of the council, of the county.
yeah, maybe we could do something on redistricting because it sounds like everyone's going to be doing that this next year. Anyone else that I missed or skipped over wants to say something on behalf of your local league or county council?
Danielle, I'm going to jump in for West Contra Costa County.
Oh,
just because I can. And West Contra Costa has been working, one of the big things that we've been trying to do in terms of diversity is to bring in younger members. And so there's a real effort to work with our local community college and with our high school students to become engaged as members. And we've had a meeting that focused on introducing young women to, yes, I have, Carrie, now you're in it. See, but he's blurred, so you can't see. We've been focusing on making sure we bring both high school students and community college students in, and have had an event with high school students, specifically talking about what their interests are. And we also are going to do a redistricting event, a Zoom. We are working and happy to collaborate with the other 3 leagues with the Buffy Wicks event, which is on May 5th at 5 o'clock this coming Wednesday. And we're going to do 2 more events later in the year. One, a racial justice program, a forum on what's worked and what hasn't worked in our county. And I agree with Diablo Valley. We have a really strong budget justice commission, and I think their information will help inform that event. And we have one on how to plug into public service for folks. And so that's my West Contra Costa County spiel.
Great, thank you. And Vita, you wanted to jump in for Sonoma too?
Yes, I did. My view up here in the clouds is all about the North Bay. So I wanted to let you know that the Sonoma County League partnered with the Marin County League for a Redistricting 101 presentation, and it had a really good turnout. So the Sonoma County League works very closely with the Latinx community in Los Cien, and they're working hard on, in their voter services, a couple of measures, local measures, Measure A, a parcel tax for the West County Unified School District, and Measure B funding for the transient occupancy tax. So that's a little highlight from the North Bay.
Thanks for that. Okay, well, I think it might be time to turn this back to Sherry, unless you guys have other points of conversation or comments that you would like to make.
Thanks so much, Danielle.
I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Who is there?
It's Cheryl.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually just wanted to comment because I'm just sitting here listening to all of you speak, and I'm hearing a familiar tone or topic or between all of you, saying that you're working on a couple of things: diversity and inclusion. Everybody's trying to improve their membership, but you're trying to not just include your membership, but you're trying to improve your diversity of your membership. And so I just have a little bit of a suggestion, if I may. One of them is that a lot of us who occupy these spaces, you know, and especially those of us who are women, Black, Latina, and Indigenous women who occupy these spaces, we occupy these volunteer spaces in many capacities, and you probably see our faces in a bunch of these spaces. But I can tell you that the League of Women Voters, when I talk to people and I just text about 5 different women, telling them this is going on. But when I ask them to join this league, it's very cost prohibitive. It's like $60, right? And when you're paying $60 for this, $45 for another one, and $30 for each gym club that you're in, is cost prohibitive. So I would say that to you right now. Especially in this time that we're living in, not everyone, you know, I'm very aware of my own privilege, but not everyone can do that. And if you look around on these screens, I would invite you to scroll through these screens and see how many people look like me. I'm gonna change this background for you really quick, just so you can see really clear what I look like. And I don't look like any of you, okay? As an Afro-Latina Muslim woman, you can see very clear that I look like you. And so I'm very clear about my own privilege. I'm very clear that I have some privileges not everybody has. So I would invite you to think of that when you're asking people to pay this high price. And $60 is high. It's a very high price to ask people to volunteer. And I see someone put in here saying something about a scholarship. Just think about that for a moment. You're asking people to tell you, I don't have $60. That in itself is also insulting, right? It's also not very, if you're talking about inclusiveness, you're talking about access, you're talking about, listen, this is what I do. I have a consulting company that deals with, besides my mortgage paying job at AZ Transit, this is what I do. When you talk about EDIA work, and some of you, if you want me to give you this information offline, I will give it to you. But since we're all here talking together, let me just give you this one free gift. When you talk about EDI work, you don't want to insult people by having them admit to you that they cannot pay $60. They cannot pay $30. They cannot pay $45. Okay? You don't want to do that. If you do anything, you make it a sliding scale for everyone, but you don't pick out people so that everyone in the league knows, oh, there's the scholarship recipient right there. Do you understand? I hope you guys understand this, because this is how you build unity. This is how you build this new sisterhood. This is how you build people who are willing to put forth an effort to come and give you the diversity that you say you want. And it's not just diversity in appearance, diversity in thoughts, it's diversity in life experience, it's diversity in age experience, because I would venture to guess that I'm not in the same generation as many of you. It's diversity in how we perspective, right? All of that is what you want, so that we can move forward in tackling some of these issues that we need to tackle. And then all of you are not coming forth trying to say, oh, we want to fight climate change, because your idea of climate change, I'm a scientist, I'm a molecular biologist and biochemist, but I look at climate change different than you do, because everything for me comes through a very racial equity lens. Because if I can't breathe, I can't go to work. And if I can't go to work, I have economic injustice. I also, if the children cannot breathe, they cannot go to school, which is an educational injustice. If we cannot have hospitals in West County, in El Cerrito, in Richmond, in La Miranda, then we have a health desert over here. So all of it is connected, you guys, to housing and everything else. So you have to look at it not in a silo. And you don't get the benefit of this conversation if you don't have people like me sitting in your chapters. When I go to LWVBAE, when I'm able to make those meetings, we're able to have this kind of dialogue. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did want to respond to that. And as I sit here, I want you to know that you get the benefit of these diverse and very rich conversations when you have a very rich membership and everyone does not look like you. Thank you.
That was, I mean, I think that you made so many wonderful points there, and I agree. And I think it's a hard thing to tackle, but one that we certainly want to. And thanks just so much for being here.
Danielle?
Yes.
I'd like to speak to a point that Cheryl just raised so beautifully.
Why don't you just take over from here? I think we're done with my section.
Sure. Give me a half an hour and I will take it over. Thanks, Danielle. Maybe somebody will come forth too, and you can come back and do your hosting. But I just wanted to say, as a member of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, and Emeryville, speaking to Cheryl's point about the price of membership being a barrier, we, over the last few years, have allowed for a sliding scale. We don't ask you if you can afford. I'm a volunteer in the office once a week, and so I open the mail And so I know how people are responding to our membership pitches. And it's important that when you send your membership letter out, you tell them what the league does, what its expenses are, including the per member payments to national and to state and so forth, and what the local league is left with in that. And after putting all of this out, to say we don't want to have any kind of barriers to membership. And so this is a sliding scale. And a surprising number of people still pay. We charge $75 for our membership, and a surprising number of people do pay that. Others just do the sliding scale for that. And here's the deal: to counter the budget implications of the sliding scale, an awful lot of our people give more. That is to say, they have taken in the fact that there are going to be a certain number of people who are going to want to do the less than 75, sometimes dramatically less, and that they want to make up for that, essentially, because they can. And so by laying out what your costs and expenses are, I think that helps people to know what each individual local league is coping with budgetarily. And so they help in various ways. So just wanted to bring that up as a possibility. A lot of the rest of you are already doing this. I know, the sliding scale business. And some are better endowed than others. But I think that if you make this appeal properly, people will not only use the sliding scale, but on the other end of the scale may contribute to you in larger fashion. And that's the way of the league. That was a beautiful presentation by Cheryl. And thank you so very much for doing that. It's in our heart. Okay, well, here we are early.
Can I interrupt? And I had noticed that Eleanor Yick had raised her hand and she wanted to speak. And I wanted to make sure we didn't ignore that. So Eleanor, it's your chance.
Thank you. Where are you, Eleanor?
Thank you very much, Kathleen, for pointing that out. I don't know. I wanted to speak more about what my league was involved in during this pandemic, and I think it might be anticlimactic at this point to follow up on some comments that it might be out of context. I will just share one highlight, and I think it does address an issue that the league has in terms of recruiting diversity into your membership. Our league this year, we put a lot of time and effort, as every league did, making the shift onto online platforms for our candidate forums and pros and cons. But what we did specifically this year, we had a team of members who took our English pros and cons, and there were about 180 slides in that PowerPoint, and translated it into Chinese. And we presented that, an incredible undertaking to do the job. Plus they were under a very tight timeline because we had to get the English ones done before they could work on the Chinese ones. And as all of you know, a lot of the information comes out late and you're constantly trying to stay up to date on really about the different propositions and your knowledge about them. But to their credit, they got this incredible project done within 10 days. They hosted 2 live webinars that had over 500 people in attendance, and the online hits were over 2,000. And our league did become much more of a known presence in that Chinese speaking community. And we had not quite a number, but we had a significant number of people who have joined the league since then. I think because they began to, or they saw, actions speak louder than words, that we are interested in speaking out to all the various segments who live in our cities and making sure that they have access to voter information. So it was a very successful project. It was a huge project, and the ladies who were leading it did an incredible job. So I just wanted to highlight that with you. I think it was very successful on many levels for our league. Okay, thank you for noticing, Kathleen.
Have we missed any other raised hands here? I'm hoping not, but speak up, please. Just unmute yourself and use your voice. Huh? A lot of stuff is appearing here in chat, and I'm glad to see that. I just have gone over to chat to look at what's up, and my goodness, there's a lot. I'm glad that we're recording that, and you can print it out or do whatever you do with it once you see it. So is there anyone else who wants to chime in here? You're welcome to do that, certainly. Okay, well, I think that we will move on then with our agenda. And thanks again, Danielle, for moderating this extremely new and interesting and sometimes provocative event. It's time to wrap this up and get on with our Saturdays. We were going to hear, Leslie, are you available here somewhere? Leslie Stewart.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Alec McDonald was going to give a synopsis of what's going to be the situation moving forward with our publication, the Bay Area Monitor. He had checked with us about the agenda and said that he would be here about 12:15. So I don't think, looking at participants, Alec, you're not here yet, are you? And I don't think he is. And
we could move ahead with the other announcements, and then if he has not joined us by then,
okay,
I will do that piece.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, now let's see.
Alec is here.
Oh, Alec is here. Wonderful. Alec, you're being a timely guy, and we'll let you put on your makeup and get your drink, and then we'll expose you here in all of your glory, unless you're going to go with a black screen. It says on my screen that you're connecting to audio, and we will be patient because we have time. Alec has been the longtime editor. You can tell us how many years, Alec, of the Bay Area Monitor. All of the qualities that you see in it, you can directly attribute to him and his staff. And Alec, are you going to unmute yourself and speak, or what's your situation? No. Okay, so I will continue to tap dance a bit here about all of that. Let's see, I have notes. Just a moment, I will shuffle through them here. And Alec's going to tell us about the plan to continue the monitor, even though we're not going to be printing, like going to a printer and getting it printed. But we're coming into the new age of 2021. And Alec, there he is in all of his glory. Alec, are you ready to tell? You can take as much time as you want.
Oh, okay. I turned it on just to listen in. I wasn't going to, I thought my place on the agenda wasn't for a while.
It wasn't, but we're concluding earlier than I thought. So welcome.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here.
Oh, perfect. We are nearing the end of our print run for the Bay Area Monitor. Since 1975, we have been mailing out hard copies of the Monitor, and we are no longer able to due to lack of funding. So we are pivoting to online only. We are currently in the process of reconfiguring our website to showcase our coverage It will come out not in a PDF of a collection of articles, but kind of in, you know, a more regular, more frequent issuing of maybe one article a week or two. I will be stepping back from the publication, as will Cecily O'Connor, who sends out the Monitor Notes email newsletter every Wednesday. We have engaged someone to take over the project, and that person will begin officially July 1, although they have been working with us on the website reconfiguration and plans for next fiscal year already, actually for a couple of months. We're pretty excited for this person to debut, and they will be providing a introduction to themselves in the June 1 print edition. So that will be our last edition in print. You can look for it. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them, but I think that's my time. And I think that's pretty much the most important parts of what our transition plan is going forward.
If you'd like more time, you're welcome to take it, Alec.
No, I mean, I don't want to belabor or bore anybody. You know, we are, I guess, in the process of fundraising, and so anybody with fundraising ideas should contact us. I think our new project manager has some pretty cool ideas that you'll be hearing about. I guess one thing that is very important to mention is that we are looking to strengthen ties with local leagues. I think that's a perpetual challenge for us because, you know, you all serve on boards, and these, you know, boards have finite terms. So people move on, and our relationships must be renewed. And so obviously on our end, as we're bringing a new project manager, that's going to make it all the more of a challenge. So I do encourage all local leagues to definitely stay connected with what the Monitor is doing. And I am hoping that the new person can, I don't know if it'll be a listening tour per se, but at least in some capacity being in contact with you all, with presidents, with voter editors, with other program officers, especially with environmental topics, to kind of give the new person not just ideas for coverage, what's happening in your local communities, but also, you know, a sense of league and league culture. So those, I think those bonds really should be maintained, and I hope strengthened. And if there's one takeaway you have from this spiel I'm giving now, is that communication, you know, we're really looking to bolster it and put you in real good contact with our new project manager.
Okay. Thanks a million, Alec. Alec has been our Monitor editor for well over a decade.
Oh.
Right? How many years?
I've been it'll be 15 years. Well, I won't make it to 15 years because technically my sort of last day in my current role will be June 30th, but I am in year 15 right now.
Right, a decade and a half.
It's a lot of time.
It is a lot of time.
That's a third of my life.
Indeed, in that time, he and his wife have had a child, and he's going balder, and oh my goodness, you know,
Thanks,
so many things to happen.
Yeah, Sherry, I was on the team that hired him.
Were you? Oh, Linda Craig
Yes.
was on the team that hired him. Were you
2004, 2005 with Nikki Harris.
Well, you made an excellent choice.
Yes,
as you know.
I think we did. Yes.
As
Thank
you
you,
know.
Alec, for all your work.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm not going to disappear. I'll still be around. I will probably contribute articles now and again, and feel free to reach out. And you have my email, but I also have a Gmail address. So, I'll put that out when I leave, and you're always welcome to hit me up.
Thank you, Alec. Well, with his outstanding staff, he's made the magazine and the email Monitor Notes the valued resource that they've come to be. He's leaving us July 1st, and it's impossible for me to tell you how much he will be missed. A million thanks, Alec, for the thousands of hours you've contributed to this excellent publication and to the Bay Area League. Thanks.
My
And
pleasure.
now I want to, yes?
My pleasure.
Oh, you bet. Oh, pleasures. Oh, pleasures come in so many forms. Oh, God. Now I want to remind you all about the rare opportunity this year that you have to attend the State League Convention, no matter where you live. You can register as a non-delegate for just $25, and for that fee, you can attend everything offered virtually. Convention runs from June 7th to 13th. It's truly a wonderful deal this year. Check it out at the State League's website. We had a great response to our Equity in Action Community Dialogue at our Bay Area League Day in March. We'll be exploring more topics at more community dialogues in the coming year. We welcome your suggestions, as has been said before, but I want to underscore that. Please put them in chat. And now, to conclude our meeting, here are Roma Dawson and Alex Starr and Vida Flores with announcements about housing and BART oversight and our need for observers and all of that. Please, first, Roma.
Thanks, Sherry. And I just want to acknowledge Cheryl and thank her for speaking up and giving me some courage to share some remarks. It is very difficult to talk about solutions for our housing crisis and our homelessness crisis. I believe League is the place to have these kind of robust conversations. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you to find out ways that we can talk to each other in a positive way. Let me point something out. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. 5th largest economy in the world. It's ahead of India, which is 6th. It's just behind Germany, which is 4th. Yet California has the worst homelessness problem in the United States, if you look at all the data. And I often think, what does the world think when they look at California and they see this and they realize this giant disparity? It takes a lot of money, it's challenging. And I happen to think that League is an incredible organization and that we ought to be engaging and trying to talk to each other. So I look forward to hearing from all of you and thank you so much for attending. We are trying to form a working group to have these discussions. And I posted an email in the chat. And I hope you'll all contact me, especially if you have housing and or homelessness committees, or if this is even a priority for your league, so we can talk about how to have something that isn't time consuming and is very productive. So thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you. Alex?
Okay, I have kind of split announcement. One, I want to encourage all the league leaders and all the participants in this Zoom chat, whatever you want to call it, to think about finding someone to be an observer for a regional agency. I said in the beginning that there are 27 transit operators within the Bay. Obviously, the more people we have observing these meetings and finding out what's going on, the better. And we can also, by doing that, if there are problems, the Bay Area League can issue a statement or voice their opinions on problems that might occur. I'm thinking especially of problems that involve DEI, since we did that big seminar before on it. And we're following up. I think now the DEI lens is permanently on our faces and in our ears, and we have to make that a point no matter what we do in the league system. So anyway, and an observer, it's not a big deal, especially nowadays, because most of the meetings are either recorded or on Zoom or whatever. So think about that. But I also have another announcement, which is we're looking now, the Bay Area League is looking for a league member to fill a vacancy on the BART Bond Oversight Committee for Measure RR. The committee consists of 5 professionals currently in engineering, auditing, public finance, construction project management, and 2 members from the League of Women Voters. One of the league, and this is written into the bond measure. It's part of the law. One of the league members is resigning. One of our league members is resigning by the end of the year for personal reasons. So we need to find someone else to fill that position. Committee members are responsible for assessing how bond proceeds are spent, and that the work is completed in a timely, cost-effective, and quality manner. They also communicate their findings and recommendations to the public and publish an annual report. Members are asked to sign a conflict of interest statement and disclose any potential conflicts that may arise in their service. Measure RR, in case you've forgotten, it's 3.5 billion bond measure approved in November of 2016. It includes projects that will strengthen BART's infrastructure by replacing 90 miles of severely worn tracks. And if you've ever ridden on BART, you know exactly what that leads to. They have to repair tunnels damaged by water intrusion and upgrade the aging train control system. It is a 2-year term that begins with the swearing-in ceremony. The position is renewable for 2 more 2-year terms, subject to BART board approval. And if you need more details, I put at the beginning of the chat, excuse me, I put my email address if you want more information. About either the position or about becoming an observer of a regional agency. And I say not just transportation, but there are other regional agencies where we can, it would be wonderful if we had someone taking notice of what's happening. We have one currently at our water agency, and her reports are fabulous. And so it doesn't cost anything except time. So consider it, or if you know someone who has an interest in a specific agency, poke them a little and see if maybe they'll volunteer to at least try it out. Because it's really important. There's no way just our board can cover the multitude of agencies that are involved. Okay, that's my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you for spieling, Alex. We used to have tons of people observing through their local leagues, and then when we were formed as a regional league, an ILO, we had more folks. This is when, back in the day. Yeah. And over the years, we've lost that effectiveness, I think, because sitting there with your big League of Women Voters badge, you're not saying anything, but your very presence is honored generally by the agency. They like to see you there. They know that we are there to make sure that they are transparent, that they're following the Brown Act and so forth. So you don't have to be an expert on their subject matter. Go ahead and say, Alex, why they don't have to be an expert.
Because I'm not an expert and I've been an observer. There's one question on chat that I'll answer right away. And if I can find it. How often does the BART Oversight Committee meet? It meets quarterly, once a quarter. So there are only 4 meetings that you have to attend remotely now. So that's not too much of a burden, I don't think. But also, I'll give an example of an observer from our own league. We were observing our local hospital, and they were violating the Brown Act. And we reported them to the Alameda County grand jury. And it went into their annual report. And as a result of that, and this is someone, it wasn't anybody who was a nurse or a doctor observing, it was just another league member. As a result of that, they changed their procedures in their public meetings. In other words, they reformed themselves, but they only did it because there was someone there, some league person who was there and observing their procedures, which were not up to Brown Act standards, and they changed. So it doesn't take a genius to do this. It takes someone who's dedicated to seeing that transparency in governments is followed by all of these agencies. Okay, that's my
Indeed.
second spiel.
Indeed, very league-like. Thank you. Okay, and Vita has an announcement and maybe even some slides. Are you there, Vita?
I have an announcement. I'm going to show my background. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let you know that next Saturday is the John Lewis Day of Action. And this is a Bay Area sponsored event. All 9 counties are getting together to hold a press event, rally in the morning, a votercade, and a celebration tailgate. And come and get into some good trouble with us. And I wanted to let you know that this event is endorsed by LWV US, and the reason we're holding it is twofold. One, we're marking the anniversary, 60th anniversary of when the Freedom Riders took their bus ride from Washington, D.C. to New Orleans. And their first stop was on May the 9th in South Carolina. And guess what happened? Mr. John Lewis tried to use the white restroom and it wasn't good. So that's why we're using this date to understand the ideals and backgrounds of voter suppression. And this event is specifically to address S1, HR1, HR 4, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, HR 54, which is Washington State, and also to address the filibuster. Now this is LWVUS endorsed, and you know we just love HR 1. So I hope that you can join us on this day next Saturday. And you can find more information on, it's going to be Saturday, May the 5th, 11 o'clock will be the rally, 12 o'clock is the votercade, and 1 to 2:30 is the celebration tailgate. You can find out more information at the bayareavotercade.org. And if you can't make the event, it's going to be streamed live on Facebook. And this is a national event. So there's going to be 110 of these rallies across the United States. And I even think that Deborah Turner or Victoria Case will be one of the national speakers at the event. So this is back in Washington. But if you can't make it and you can't watch it, perhaps you can join the Twitter storm. And I've given you the link for the Twitter storm with some ideas of tweets that you can do anytime between now and Saturday. So I hope that you turn out for this voter suppression, anti-voter suppression event that's sponsored by LWVUS. I know LWV Oakland will have a big presence at the event and also endorse the event along with LWV Piedmont. So join us on Saturday. Thank you, Sherry. Now back.
Thank you, Vita. Thank you. I hope that a bunch of you can participate in various ways. How appropriate to have this named after John Lewis. I mean, my goodness, if we don't know who John Lewis is yet, well, we're not proper leaguers. So thanks again, Vita, and again, what a day of action. All right, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. All of you stay well, stay involved until we meet again. Thanks again. Bye-bye.